Hey there, I'm Scott, and this is Tangents. Well, last week I thought that was going to be my last one for a couple weeks, and today I find myself with a little bit of time and the place to myself, so I'm recording another one. It is actually the 8th of October 2021, my mom's birthday. She's out for lunch with a friend, and since I had the opportunity, probably should be working on some stuff, but wanted to bank one of these, so gonna put one in. What I want to talk about for now is engagement. And before I get to that, actually, I have a couple of other thoughts on a couple of other things. So today, Tesla is going to release a wider public beta of their full self, air quotes, full self-driving system. And about 2 weeks ago, they released something which they call a safety score. And the safety score beta thing is supposed to help them evaluate like how dangerous people are as drivers, how good they are. And it has, I think, 4 or 5 metrics. Maybe it's 6, I don't even remember. But the metrics that they use are things like following distance, aggressive braking, aggressive turning, forward collision alarms, and forced autopilot disengagement. So forced disengagement is basically you're not paying attention, your hands are not on the wheel. I do have problems where my hand will be on the wheel and I'm maybe not applying enough pressure or who knows what, but it thinks that I'm not holding it, so it'll yell at me, but you just apply a little bit of pressure, a little bit of torque to the wheel, and it's okay there. So that one, it's fair. I'm not too bothered by it. The forward collision alarms, the first day, so I very regularly with my Tesla, my Model 3, I'll be driving and a truck will go across the road way up ahead, clear the road way before we get there, and the car screams at me and puts this, like warning on, like you're going to slam into somebody. It's annoying as fuck. I cannot stand that. The very first day that I started getting these ratings for the full self-driving beta score, safety score, I had 2 false alarms for that. I have had, in the time that I've had the Tesla, I think 1 real forward collision alarm that actually was on the freeway, traffic stopped suddenly. I probably would have still gotten it myself, but it stopped the car, alarm came off, and yeah, did not come close to hitting the car in front of me. So that one time was pretty good. In the time that I've had the car, I've also had many hundreds of false alarms for that. And it's to the point where it actually just makes me ignore them, which to me seems extraordinarily counterproductive. I mean, having an alarm is good. Having so many false alarms that it basically trains you to ignore the alarm, probably not the wisest thing. So I got 2. One of them was a car was in the oncoming lane, just a little bit close to the edge. The car freaked out for that. One of them was somebody crossing. A couple days ago, I got a couple more. Or no, actually, what am I saying? I got 1 more for I don't even remember what. It was another just bullshit false alarm. But I've got, on the first day, something like 20 per 1,000 miles is the rating for that. So they're projecting, they're extrapolating a lot. I drove like 30 miles that day. It's a pretty small sample for, and these are things which they are comparing them to the fleet medians. I understand what they're trying to do. I do think what they have is a sort of low frequency Poisson process with a lot of false alarms, and they're trying to infer some kind of meaning from that. The statistics that they're using on that, I think, would work if you drove 10,000 miles. Based on the stuff that they're doing, I don't think they're getting any kind of meaningful data for anyone there. And also, if you get one while you're in autopilot, sometimes, according to their site, always, but according to my experience, sometimes you'll have a forward collision alarm that's false, which happened to me yesterday, and it won't be reported there at all. Why not? I don't know. Incidentally, the autopilot as it exists now, by all of the measures, save for the disengagements, because it's not going to disengage itself, by all of those measures, it would be doing terribly. It stops suddenly all the time, races to a red light, slams on the brakes. If I did that with the safety score, I would get dinged for aggressive stopping. It does it continuously. You can set the safety distance, or the distance, the following distance essentially between you and the next car. They have 7 tiers of that. I think 7 is the maximum. I had it set there in autopilot, and I was using autopilot all the time, trying to get a good score. The autopilot would constantly fuck shit up, and I ended up at 97 through yesterday, and I attribute a lot of that to the autopilot, which was supposed to help the score, putting me in bad situations, doing stupid shit, and then I had to disengage it. So forced disengagement from autopilot in the sense that autopilot's doing something dumb or dangerous and I'm disengaging it should be a ding against the autopilot, maybe a positive thing for me, I don't know, but either way. And then it would put me in a situation where like you disengage and now you have to slam on the brakes or something, or steer suddenly or whatever to get out of the situation that autopilot put you in, and you get dinged for that. Or you disengage and now autopilot's got you so close to somebody, even with your following distance set right, that now you get that you're following too close. That was coming up all the time. Yesterday, I finally ended up, this was stupid. I'm in the process of transition training to learn how to fly a Cirrus. And I had a flight yesterday. That is at the Scottsdale airport, which is like 35, 40 minutes away. Went out there, did my flight, came back, had the fucking keys to the plane in my pocket, and I noticed this as soon as I get home, so I had to drive all the way back and drove back. When I did that, I finally just was getting fed. I've been fed up with the safety score for a while, but I got fed up with it. I drove myself home and got like a perfect score, 100. You know, on the fucking autopilot thing, it was like, I don't know, 90 something. But you know, you get dinged for close following, you get dinged for aggressive stopping or turning. I had 2 red bars from the autopilot one. On myself, all green across the board. You know, basically, I'm not saying it was perfect driving by any means. And this is part of my problem with this, because I'm not a perfect driver. But in my experience with this thing, I would say there's almost no correlation between me paying attention, using the autopilot, all of that kind of stuff, driving safely, ignoring the problems that it will cause or not, being a safe driver or not, being a safe steward of the autopilot or not, the full self-driving such as it is, or such as it will be. And that is what you really want to measure, probably. So now they have like 1,000 people who have a perfect 100 score. I don't believe that they're any safer than, I suspect if they would just pick at random 1,000 people from their population without the pretense of the safety score, the odds of one of those people getting into an incident or an accident would be probably about the same as the people that have the perfect scores. So it annoys me. I would really like to get this stupid fucking beta. I understand like you don't want to do like a wide release. I think I'm a pretty decent beta tester. Although I will say, if you look at my bug reports, when I first got the car, the bug reports started out pretty reasonable. And now, I mean, first off, in order to file a bug report, you have to click the button, you say bug report, blah, blah, blah. It gives you like 3 short lines. And they, as far as I know, they're just going into a fucking black hole. So I have reported ignoring school zone speed limits dozens, if not hundreds of times. I've reported racing to a red and then slamming on the brakes so many fucking times. It does all kinds of shit that is legitimately dangerous or aggressive or just harmful to the car and annoying to the the passengers and kind of freaks out. Like, my mom is driving the car. When autopilot is driving, it freaks her out. And I understand why, because it does things that are weird. And some of those weird things are just, they're acceptable, they're just different. And some of them are, frankly, between stupid and actually dangerous. So I'm annoyed by that. Yeah, I'm annoyed that now, after I manually drove, and I wish I would have realized this like a week ago, because my safety score yesterday went up to 98 from 97 because I drove manually a bit. I swear, if I just drove manually for like a week, I'd get it up to 99 at least, if not 100. It annoys me. Fucking annoys me. I know it's stupid. I know, like maybe it'll get to me eventually. What I'm expecting to happen though is they'll release it to the people with hundreds, they'll release it to the people with the 99s, and then somebody is gonna they're gonna hit somebody, either, hopefully it's just like a minor incident, but they could hit a pedestrian or who knows what, do something terrible, and that's gonna put the brakes on it, and then I might not get it for an indefinite period. I could see also potentially not getting it until after I get rid of the car. Seems reasonable. I know there are people who paid for full self-driving years ago and either got rid of their car, upgraded, whatever, and never got to use it because it doesn't exist. Which, to be fair, on one hand, yeah, I'm sure legally they're okay. They're not, they do have fine print that basically says, like, obviously we don't have real full self-driving, but you're still paying for something called full self-driving. It's annoying. And they're charging a lot of money for it. They were when I got it, it was like $7,000, and now it's like $10,000. And it still is aspirational at best. At best. So that's annoying. We'll see where that goes. But that was a total sidetrack that had nothing to do with today's topic. It's just like a thing that is getting released today and is annoying me. We'll see how that goes. I do think if they do have problems, that safety score is a worthless measure. And also, again, like that safety score, if you could turn on, I wish I could turn on the safety score for the autopilot as it is, because it would have like a 20. It wouldn't be like 80%. It wouldn't be like 50%. It would be like 20. It would have aggressive turning, aggressive stopping. Every negative ding that it could have, it would have. So anyway, fucking annoying me. I don't know if you can hear it. There's a truck outside, and hopefully, I'm not even going to be able to postpone this because I have a very narrow window here. And also, they're repaving some of the alleyways around me, and have been doing for the week, and they're going to keep doing it for a while. So I'm pretty much not able to do anything about that sound. Hopefully you don't even hear it, but if you do, my apologies. I suspect you can hear that beeping, which is fucking annoying. Anyway, moving on. So what I want to talk about is engagement, just rolling back to that. And I'm getting progressively more annoyed by certain things. I mean, I did have the belligerent one. I'm just, I don't know why I think it's a cumulative effect, but like if I'm on Twitter, they're trying to like force shit onto you. If you're on Instagram, they're pushing extra bullshit onto you. If you're on YouTube, it's annoying also because they're not just showing you like if it was, okay, we're running out of stuff from the feeds that you're subscribing to. What they're doing is actually de-ranking some of the stuff that you're subscribed to and the people that you're following. So you'll miss stuff from those people. And then they throw in shit that you don't give a shit about. And there was a whistleblower from Facebook who testified in front of the Senate last week, or I guess it was this week, about this stuff. And about, in particular, that Facebook has known that Instagram has been causing serious harm to teenage girls. And not only have they been doing it, but they know they've been doing it. And that's really, I compared that to the tobacco industry. Like, they've had studies for decades and decades, and finally had testified in front of Congress, and just like Zuck, they're sitting there like, oh no, our stuff is total. And then obviously later came out they were full of shit, and they knew, not only, I mean, everybody, frankly, knew. It's kind of like the full self-driving thing. I don't, like, I've never tried smoking. I never would. But every time I've seen any kind of like video of it in the popular press or the popular media, anything like this, you see somebody trying it for the first time, they always cough, right? It's always like my dad, he smoked a lot. And in the morning, he'd wake up and just hack and hack and hack for a minute or two and then smoke. I don't think it was a mystery to people that smoking was probably not the best thing for you. Even when you had the doctors talking about it as a positive thing and people, even when it was like pretty normalized and like half the population was doing it, I don't fully buy that people didn't know. But even with that, they definitely had studies showing that it was causing lung cancer and emphysema and all this shit. And they ignored it and basically kind of buried that stuff. Facebook doing the same. Now, there was somebody on Twitter a few days ago. I'm sorry, I keep going back to Twitter. It's my, all of my engagement goes there. But someday I have to change that. It's really probably not healthy. But a couple days ago, someone was saying that you shouldn't be comparing them to the tobacco industry. You should be comparing them to the food industry. And yeah, okay, yeah, both the food industry and the tobacco industry have caused a lot of problems for a long time, knowingly so. The tobacco industry, at least, I mean, smoking is down. It's not gone by any means, but it's greatly reduced. I'm so thankful for that too. Like I can go to it used to be like I would go to a restaurant or something and it was just miserable. And you'd go outside, I'd be walking on fucking campus and there'd be someone 100 meters ahead smoking and it's like burning my eyes and stinking. Yeah, and just annoyed the shit out of me. Now I still encounter it, but it's at least reduced. It's not perfect. It is amazing how much, like one person in the neighborhood doing it funks it up for the whole neighborhood. But that notwithstanding, I'm sure you can't hear this one. My fucking MacBook Pro sounds like a jet engine in the next room. I know I talk about this a lot. It's October. I'm sure they're going to have an event in a week or two to release the new M1X based MacBook Pros. And I'm gonna, like an idiot, I'm going to buy one. It's driving me insane, and it's hot, like to the point where I can feel the heat on my face. It's loud and obnoxious, and it's one of those things that's just, just like this engagement shit getting to me. It's not like that big of an insult or an affront, but you have this constant like on your desk, and it's just driving me nuts. That, the combination of not getting enough sleep, all this other shit, not helping. But this one is really annoying me, and it irritates me. It gets to something else on the engagement subject. Apple has a podcast app, and in this podcast app, they also have these recommendations. I mentioned the recommendations. I didn't explain what the problem is or why they're relevant here. They want you, and when I say they, I mean Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Apple in this case, want you to use their shit as much as possible. They want you to be engaged. They want your attention. And it's weird in Apple's case because, they're not benefiting from it. They're not like selling ads in my podcasts. So why do they want me to? I don't know. But everybody's just, trying to get more and more of your attention. So they put in these recommendations, and they do that knowing that, like if you're out of videos or you're kind of tired of the videos you're watching, you're probably going to not watch as much YouTube. If you're out of podcast episodes, you're not going to listen to the podcasts. Now, personally, that's what I want. I want to get through the podcasts that I have and be done with it. But they insist on putting this shit in there. Just, I go to my fucking podcast page, and it's not just like the 3 unread or unlistened to episodes of, like the Gab Fest or whatever else I'm listening to. It's a bunch of bullshit that I'm never going to listen to, cluttering the shit up, distracting me and annoying me, and it's making me, in as much as I get angry. I mean, like I'm on YouTube and I go in there and like half the videos are from people I'm not trying to follow. I don't want to follow. They're just like related to something that it's like, oh, here's a dozen videos on how to ollie. Like, I don't need to see that fucking shit. I don't want to see it. Oh, you went to something about Altium and how to do this thing. Now we're going to show you 20 videos on that shit too. I don't want it. I do not want it. Just fucking give me the shit that I signed up for. And if I want to discover new stuff, maybe give me an opportunity, like give me a page of shit. Like, oh, are you bored? No. But if I was, and I was like desperate for something, which would not happen, but if I was, then give me a page I can go to. And this is like the page that I'll never go to where all that bullshit is accumulated. In Twitter, I want to see my fucking feed. I want to see the people that I'm following. And I keep feeling like I've been blocked by people who I've followed and have been mutuals with for a long time because I'm not seeing their shit anymore. And it's not like they're not tweeting. I mean, some people are not, and some people have deactivated their accounts. But a lot of it is just like they stop showing me shit. So I'm not seeing somebody and I feel like they're just gone now. And it's like, I just want to see the stuff that, I want the fire hose. Facebook did this a long time ago. Before I've been off, I think, a couple of years now, but before I was off, I got to the point where I was seeing posts from like 5 people. I had about 2,000 air quotes friends on Facebook, and I'd see the same shit from the same 5 people. And I wanted to see their stuff, don't get me wrong, but I want to see everything from everybody else. And it's irritating. Like, why can you not show me the fucking fire hose? Why do you have to insist on having this weird algorithm that's sitting there trying to get me riled up or trying to show me the stuff that I'm going to find most satisfying or gratifying or whatever it is that you're, I mean, I guess they're not measuring anything particular other than this is the thing that's going to make you press the button and keep scrolling down or doing whatever. I don't want that. I do not want it. It's one of the reasons, many reasons, but one of the reasons that I'm no longer on Facebook. One of the reasons I should be off of Instagram, and I'm not yet, but yeah, I feel like somebody who's like an alcoholic sitting there, like, oh, I'm I can quit anytime I want, and I'm, like, it's like, I'm really cutting down on it, it's like, probably should do it. I don't really have an excuse for not doing it. It's bad. Anyway, this engagement thing is driving so much in such a bad way that it's just annoying. And it's also like, by the metric of engagement, negative attention is still attention. Negative attention is actually almost better because, if you watch Howard Stern's Private Parts, Pig Vomit is sitting there talking about how, or I think it was him, Paul Giamatti, sitting there talking about how, like, well, the people that don't like him listen to him more. The people that don't like him listen to him longer. The people who don't like Kirsten Sinema are engaging with her, and to her, negative attention is still attention. It's helping my profile. It's like, oh, I can just point at all these people that are, and she has something broken in her as a human being that makes her, I think, actually like that shit. And it's just like, it should not be rewarded. It should be something like, it should be shameful, and it should be deleterious. It should not be like, oh, you're pissing a bunch of people off. Well, oh, here's a big wad of money. Here's a big wad of attention that you can convert to money. Everything has to convert to money at some point, but it's tedious. The whole fucking way that our society is designed and wrapped around this. My mom is in town, and I hate advertising as a general rule. Now, I understand advertising is kind of necessary. You have something, you want to sell it, you have to tell people about it. It's kind of like a natural thing that comes out of that sort of economy and that sort of existence. And when I say that, even if you're not selling a product or selling a service, you just want attention, you want somebody to hear your story, whatever it is, there's some marketing involved, right? You could totally eliminate capitalism and there'd still be advertising and marketing, because it's not the only, like, I mean, there's a problem with the idea of eliminating capitalism, because you could eliminate dollars or anything equivalent, but you still have things that are valuable inherently, and people will still, whether it's attention or whether it's energy or mass or whatever, those things end up getting traded unless you have like literally unlimited amounts of everything. But those things get traded, and then there's some kind of value there. And then you end up years and years ago. I had I don't know if friend is the right word, but there was someone I knew, and she is an objectivist, which I'm sure I've talked about this before. Objectivism, disgusting and stupid. It's Ayn Rand's bullshit, like terrible. It's not even really a philosophy. It basically is just kind of Gordon Gekko's greed is good, but codified into a quasi-philosophy for people who've never taken a philosophy course. So this woman I knew, Naomi, she wanted to start an objectivist group at ASU. Needed somebody who was faculty or staff to, I don't know, sign something to get started. I did it. I semi-regret it, although I also think people should be allowed to organize. I mean, although, I guess the question is, like, if it was a Nazi group, would you're like, people should be allowed to know? Probably not. Probably don't do that one. So if you're going to cut the line there, maybe drawing the line at objectivist is not so bad. I used to be a much more free speech absolutist. Even, like, it's important that I defend the speech that I don't like more than, and yeah, I do still feel that way, kind of, but I'm also very well aware of the paradox of I want to say paradox of choice, but it's the paradox of the word is escaping me. Holy shit. Essentially, the idea that when you have a free society and people are able to speak and organize, that very freedom provides the sort of fertile ground for propagating tyranny and, like fascism, that kind of stuff. So, and it's completely, whatever the paradox is, the word, you're probably listening to this screaming, Scott, it's just not, it's not in my head. It's terrible. It'll come to me as soon as I'm done with this, I'm sure. But anyway, you have that, and now I would say I've kind of adjusted my understanding of it. I would not have done that today, now that I think about it. But at the time, I thought it was a good thing. I thought it was kind of helping out, and I was kind of hoping, honestly, that people, I was a big believer in, like Penn Jillette's a big kind of libertarian. I'm not. But I do understand the idea, like, oh, well, the cure for bad ideas is more ideas, or the cure for bad speech is more speech, not less. It sounds like a good idea. Not sure it actually works out that way, unfortunately. You have anti-vaxxers, you have all kinds of terrible stuff that's propagating, and better speech does not really help it. The internet has, like, all the information in the world that we know, but it also has dozens of alternate realities worth of information, bad information, really, not information in giant air quotes, which is bad and fake. That kind of shit, it's not a situation where there's this kind of like marketplace of ideas and then the good ones win, and it doesn't work that way. It's actually probably, if anything, the bad ones are stronger and they win. They're easier to propagate. What is it? A lie travels around the world while the truth is putting on its overcoat, or whatever the fuck this thing is. So I'm sitting here kind of like thinking about that, but going back, go to the first meeting of this objectivist group, and they're sitting there, and amusingly, they didn't find it so, but amusingly, they're sitting there like reading, I think it was, I don't even know what the fuck the name of the thing is. It's Atlas Shrugged. Atlas Shrugged. They're reading a chapter from that, and it was like a Bible group, a study group for religion, and you're just like, each person's reading a page, and then you're gonna kind of like talk about whatever this chapter and verse is about, and it's like, I don't want the religious one. I don't want the atheists who claim to not be religious but still are treating, this horrible person who died on the public dole despite shitting on any kind of public support. They're treating her like a fucking messiah. So, but I'm there, and they're kind of sitting there talking about how good it would be to eliminate the EPA, let's just say. And well, everything should be just publicly or privately owned, and then that private ownership will create, and they go through this whole bullshit logic to try to justify to themselves that it's not going to be a complete hellscape if they did eliminate but anyway, like anarcho-capitalism, it's a very bad place to be. You don't want to be in that. But like the libertarian utopia is a nightmare. So they're talking about this, and then you start going back and forth, and it's like, well, okay, well, somebody privately owns this, and then you have a private police force, and you go back and forth, and like 3 steps later, you end up recreating effectively the EPA. It's just called something different. This is a problem, incidentally, that and I think it's when you don't understand how things were created or why, you see sort of the artifacts of that. You see the rounded rectangles on the iPhone, but you don't understand why they landed on exactly the same shape and radii and weight and all of this kind of stuff that they did. So it's really easy to misinterpret what got you there. And if you go through the exercise, you're like, I'm going to reinvent the phone. Just start from scratch. You go through the same process, and I'm going to make something totally different. And then convergent evolution leads you to a very similar design. There are not that many designs that really fit in your hand. The aspect ratio is kind of set. The scaling is kind of set. Ergonomics sets a lot of stuff. Manufacturing. You can't have like a triangular display is not really practical. You can do it obviously, but like addressing that, having display memory that works in something that's not rectangular, it's kind of a mess. So you could imagine, okay, well, we're going to have a display that is the same resolution horizontally across, but it's going to have a bend in it or something. You could do that. You could even imagine making a carve out and then having something where they tile. So that's actually something that would be manufacturable and at scale. But at the same time, rectangular shit is very easy. And it's something that we do a lot of. So you're probably going to land on that. And once you get there, landing on rounded rectangles and landing on roughly the radii that we have and the kinds of fillets that we have and all of this sort of stuff ends up being a thing that you're going to do. And if you try not to do that, or you don't understand what got you there, you either recreate it or you create something that it sucks because you did not observe or apply the same things, the same principles that got you to that other thing. So the gist of all of that is just not understanding things does cause you to recreate it. I think one of the problems with all of this attention shit, all of this engagement shit, advertising, money, for example, is you sort of think, well, okay, we're going to get rid of money. Going to get rid of money altogether. And then you essentially end up recreating it because there are real finite resources and you try to allocate them somehow or whatever the thing is. There was actually a good Isaac Arthur video on the future without money. I think it was actually this week. Probably why it's like in my mind. But that talks a little bit about it. And I'm not a big, don't get me wrong, I don't think capitalism that's unfettered in the way that we have it is a good thing. I think it definitely is causing a lot of problems, including all of this shit for advertising and attention and trying to get you to engage as much as possible, trying to steal your attention, trying to get you to just, get those dopamine hits and, scroll as much as possible and just keep doing whatever, keep your little superstitious pigeon pattern going. as much as we can, that stuff kind of is driven by things that are bad and toxic and really should be eliminated. And the inability to compete with Apple or Facebook should be fixed. That's not something that, it's not a good path. It's basically a dystopic path to go down where you have a company or a couple of companies that make all the super advanced tech and control everything essentially. It's probably not a place you want to be. Having a company, having something like Facebook is kind of awesome. Having one company own that and be able to do whatever the fuck they want with it, completely undemocratically, pretty fucking bad. I mean, I think one way to break up Facebook, you could imagine nationalizing it or something terrible. One thing you could do is just, okay, we're going to give everybody in the planet, or everybody who's alive, a share of Facebook. And now you all have equal votes. Zuck and all of these people have one vote. And, the future of Facebook is determined that way. That might be better. Although you do have a lot of problems with direct democracy or even representative democracy, which again, if you don't understand the reasons for those problems, you end up recreating them. If you don't understand the reasons for getting to that system, you end up recreating it. And if you don't understand the things that caused problems there, if you don't understand, for example, why is it that large organizations tend to become very bureaucratic and sort of ossified over time? If you don't understand that, then you will create the same thing, even in your attempt to avoid it. It's a funny thing because DSA, and I'm not shitting on DSA. I like some of the things they do, but they tend to, at least in my experience, go really heavy into the Roberts rules and sort of democratic, ideally, air quotes, democratic, small d, democratic representation and organization. And what they end up doing is giving a lot of power to the people who know how the system works. They end up making everything really painful and just tedious and boring, and essentially drive a lot of people out who otherwise might be engaged or interested. And it's a problem because they've kind of recreated some of the things that they were trying to avoid. But anyway, I'm getting very annoyed by my my computer in the next room running that fan. I'm gonna probably break this just about now, and I don't want to keep rambling on. So I may or may not do another one of these next week. We'll see, but hopefully we'll. Certainly I'll be back in a couple weeks. I am not sure what I'm gonna do. Well, that's I guess another. I was gonna get into something and then I'd be talking for another half hour. So I'm not gonna even mention that now. I will probably bring it up next time or at some point in the future when time permits. So with that, as always, thank you very much for listening or watching, and 再见.